Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. Today is Monday, October 1st. Halloween is right around the corner for you guys. You already know. And we just bringing the stories. We bringing amazing people, as you guys already know. So if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to that YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop another episode. Now, before I bring on my next guest, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comments section. And this is for educational purposes only. Now, without further ado, you guys help me welcome my next guest, Miss Steph, to the show. Stephanie, how you doing?
So good, my friend. Excellent to see you again. Thanks for having
Yes,
me on.
yes. Of course, it's an honor. Thank you for being here today. I know you've been busy with doing your mojo out there in the world and things like that. So before we get started, though, tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Tony. I'm Steph Mitchell. I am a Mojo Maven. I'm the founder of Mojo Mastery. I'm from Winnipeg, Canada originally, but I'm coming to you live today from France. I used to
Mm,
live here for 4 years, and I've missed it every moment since I've left to go back to Canada in 2021, which we'll
mhm.
talk a little bit about later.
All right,
But
all right.
my Mojo mission takes me all over the place, and I'm just getting started. So I'm excited to talk more about it today. Because
Uh,
Mojo is really, just to give a quick little intro when I continue to refer to Mojo today, it's Mojo is that feeling that you get when you're tapped into all your good stuff and like the
mhm.
wind is at your back and you're feeling your best and you've got this like unshakable confidence and you just kind of have this little strut in your step.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes it happens by accident, but I've cracked the code on how to have it all the time. So
I
that's what I
can't
do,
wait.
and that's my mission.
I can't wait. I think because I think everybody needs a little mojo. We all need a
Right?
little mojo running around here. And then you coming from guys, we over in Paris, all right? We in Paris right now. So we didn't crack international borders, man. This is crazy.
We're
And
going.
what time is it there right now? There's an 8 hour time difference, so it's like 8 o'clock your time right now.
That's right.
Yeah. So what's the environment over in France right now?
Well, France is a pretty interesting place to be right now. Like a lot of places, it's politically a little bit fragile. I walked through a huge protest manifestation that was happening in the city. It was all very, very peaceful, but hundreds of people coming together to talk about the government and how the world is going. And environmentally, it's quite wet. It's quite cold and chilly outside. So
Mm,
I'm wasn't ready for that.
yeah.
But yeah, it's good to be back. It's interesting how I spent so much of my daydreaming time here over the last 3 years that I'm kind of pinching myself because I've been thinking about it so long and I'm actually doing it now. So it's a pretty great feeling.
Well, that is truly amazing. Like again, I'm living vicariously through you at the moment because you over in France and look at you over there glowing up and everything. I'm just like, I see you, I see you.
It's that croissant glow. It's that, you know.
I can dig it. I can definitely dig it. Let's talk about your journey. Let's talk about your story. How did you become who you are?
Well, the last time I was here in France, I'd been living here for 4 years, and I've always kind of lived by the mantra: live the life you love the life you live.
Hmm.
And I would always been a career girl. I worked for Starbucks coffee for 15 years and always going after that next job, that next promotion. And when that all came to a close, it was time to come live my dream and live in France. And over the 4 years that I was here, I found myself becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. I speak fluent French, but I didn't know all the cultural references. It was really obvious that I was not from here. So I I never really felt seen or heard, and I didn't know how to take up any space. And my marriage became more and more untenable. We were quickly approaching the end. And right as COVID hit and I lost my mother-in-law and her sister within 8 days of each other to COVID. And then 6 months later, I wake up to a phone call that my mother had suddenly passed away. Healthy as a horse, 77 years old, not even on a single medication. And one day she took a nap and she just didn't wake up. And that I had grieved things previously in my life, but with the dissolving of my marriage and my self-worth being at a very low point, and now losing the biggest pillar in my life, which was my mom, we had an incredible relationship with each other. I just felt like my whole world was burning down. So I very quickly got on a plane. I went back to Canada to grieve with my family, of course, and to be with my dad and my brothers. And I felt like I was a zombie. Like I didn't recognize the world. Time didn't really mean anything. And I just felt like nothing made sense anymore. And I didn't know, because I hadn't really done the work of putting myself first and being able to navigate with resilience.
Right.
So I just completely gave myself over to grief. I just said, this is what I'm doing now full time. I'm just going to live in it. I'm going to process it. I'm going to feel it truly. And whatever I'm feeling, I'm going to truly feel it. I'm not going to mask it. I'm not going to avoid it. I'm going to look it in the face and get to know it. And as a result, heal myself.
Right.
And I stopped trading my time for money, and I started using my time like an investment bank. And I put it all on myself for the first time in a really long time. And I just completely focused on feeling those feelings, acknowledging them, honoring them, and letting them pass, right? And letting them do their duty, learn the lesson they're here to teach me, and then let it pass and keep what serves me and leave the rest. And slowly, very slowly, I started to redefine my sense of self. I got to know myself again. I asked myself more questions and really got to put myself back in the author's position of what I wanted the rest of my life to look like. Because in that moment of grief, I couldn't plan what I was going to be capable of doing next week, because I just lost capacity to problem solve, to daydream, to set goals. I just felt like I was this empty vessel.
Yeah.
So I put in the work. And that's where I realized that the relationship that we have with ourselves is the key to everything else.
You're absolutely right. But I love the fact that you were explaining your grieving process very, very in depth there. And I want to elaborate on it a little bit, because I don't think a lot of people understand that when it comes down to grief, it is so individual that the grieving process is not going to look the same as everyone else. And as much as we talk about that and things like that, there's still a misconception that we do it wrong. And I had a conversation with a good friend of mine yesterday. Just lost a very important part of their family, son-in-law, and he leaves behind 11-year-old son and a wife, and things like that. And I was talking with her, and I was telling her, because some do's and don'ts, things like that. Never advice, only some suggestions.
Right.
And then I'm listening to her, and she's like, well, I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to do that. I said, no, you don't.
Babe, says who? Really
do. Yeah, and that's what I told her. I said, no, you don't. And she goes, but I was like, yeah, but you need you first. The family's going to be okay. and I'm gonna help you guide through that, right? You know what I'm saying? And so the biggest thing about it is that, well, she kept saying my dad this and my dad that. I go, well, look, check this out. Your dad's going to do what he needs to do. You can't model right. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to be with the way he needs to do because he's going to do what works for him. And this is the part where I say that this is such an individual thing that although every last one of you have your own relationship with this individual, that is going to be the determining factor of how you grieve that individual. And so I say this is the time where it's okay to sit with yourself.
It's the best time.
Right. It's
when
the
we're
best time
raw
to do it, right?
and exposed like that.
Look, we both know, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think where the biggest challenge comes is that not too many people know how to sit with themselves, right?
Sure.
Before any of this even happens. But I mean, if you look at life in general, right? We're going to experience traumas. We're going to experience a whole lot of things that's going to change how we perceive life. And so a lot of times what happens is that during our course of surviving in life, we develop a very strong dislike for ourselves.
Mm.
You see what I mean? And because when you think about it, when you've been surviving in this world for so long and things like that, you have to become something that's different in order to survive.
Yep. You have to act in alignment with what your external world is asking of you.
Right.
As opposed to like coming from within. And this is going to take up space. Those are two very different worlds to live in. But the good news is that nothing's permanent.
Nothing's permanent, but I think a lot of people, going back to, going and elaborating on what you said, people get stuck in that. Yep. And so, and when it comes time for them to actually be able to sit with themselves, a lot of people don't like themselves.
Sure. And it makes total sense because we've been defining ourselves by other people's words, other people's perception, other people's value systems. But then when we stop and take a beat, we say, okay, well, what are my values? Well, family and money. And like, is that true? Like if we stop and look at our lives and say, okay, if family is a value, how do you show up for your family? How do you show up? Okay, well, maybe in that case, maybe entrepreneurship is my value because that's where I spend my best energy and most of my energy. Okay, great. Right. And letting ourselves off the hook with forgetting this idea of good and bad. What if things just were and you could
I love that.
Accept.
Yeah, I love that.
Kind of take the pressure off a little bit.
Yeah, it does. Or get back to some basic stuff, right? And this is the part where I tell people it's good to be a child, right? You know what I'm saying? Like it's good to look at the world through the eyes of a child. For one, the children don't mind running around barefoot. There's something with that, right? Get yourself out in nature. Take your shoes off. Go, on a nice warm, breezy day. Go put your feet in the dirt. Go put your feet in the sand. You know what I'm saying? And just sit there for a minute. Because for one, connect with it, right? But there's a reason for that as well. Because we may have that disdain for ourselves, that allows us to connect with something bigger than us. And that energy that we get from there allows us to push that out to the side to rewire those synapses, right? You know what I'm saying? And as you say, to begin to find that mojo, that beat, right? You know what I'm saying? Because for me,
tuned in.
Right, and actually tune in, because when you start doing that, the earth would do something real magical to you. It will begin to connect because it understands what you need. And once you allow your body to actually touch and connect with it, it sends that energy to you. And it's like, okay, we need to give you this in order for you to see us the way that we need to be seen. It's time to start the healing
And
process.
remind us how
Mhm.
connected we really are. And
Right.
especially as we go through grief, grief is, I'm sure you've heard all of the adages of like grief is
Oh,
love with nowhere to go. Um, it's worth observing. It's worth acknowledging how connected we are to everything. And nature just does
mhm,
that better than anything else. It does that. Music is in there,
mhm.
faith is in there, of course, prayer, meditation. But nature is just like plugging into
Yeah.
all of it, and that literal grounding that we do to just remind us that this is all connected. It's all on purpose. It's all for if we can believe that it's all for the greater good. That's a little hard to say from the deepest parts of grief, but it can
Mhm.
slowly help us, rewire those synapses, give us a little bit of a zoom out, break, pause from the hard, deep stuff and get a little bit of perspective of like, oh yeah, there's a bigger picture here.
Mhm.
This tree is going to lose all of its leaves and
Mhm.
then it's going to grow more again.
I want to add to that because you're absolutely right. I want people to understand too that um, these things do take time, right? You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Just like how when you grow, you shed skin, right? You know what I'm saying? Believe it or
Mhm.
not, we shed skin as we begin to grow, right? You know what I'm saying? Our skin grows with us, but we have to get that dead skin off of us, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Our organs have to grow. You know what I'm saying? There's things that there's a process that you have to go through, right? No matter how you look at it, but life has a way of setting you up for where you need to be.
Mm.
For some odd reason, well, not for some odd reason. I tell people when you go through some things in life, never forget what you asked for.
Oh.
Never forget what you asked for because it starts as a child, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so, and prime example. Remember when we were children, we was in school and the teachers used to always ask us to write down what we wanted to be when we grew up, right?
Mhm.
They've already started the process. They knew right then and there that you knew you had a preconceived notion of what you wanted to be, right?
Yeah.
And then as we got older, life started lifing on us. You know what I'm saying? We got a little distracted. We got excited for this and got
Program.
excited for that, and you know what I'm saying? We kind of lost track, but the world never did. And then it got
True.
you to a point because it started lining these things up to teach you certain things, but you never understood why. And then you
What
go
did
into,
you want to be when you were a little kid?
wow, I've always wanted to help people,
Hmm.
and I never understood what that truly meant, right? Because at the time when I was a child, I used to love drawing. I, I
Ooh.
was I was into GI Joes and He Mans and things like that, and I was that kid that used to draw my own characters, and I taught myself how to draw ever since I was knee high from a grasshopper, and I've always just stayed with it. I used to draw my sister's comic books, My
Oh,
Little Ponies and Care Bears, and you know what I'm
yeah.
saying, Squiggles, the Smurfs and things like that. I used to take that stuff and I put it together and I used to draw her own little comic book and stuff like that. We grew up poor, right? But I knew that's what brought her joy, and that's what I did. I was like, "Here, baby girl, here." And she would get so excited, bro, this is awesome. And she'd go in there and I make it to where she could color them in and stuff like that. I want to see inside the lines. And so that's what I knew then that's what I wanted to do. I just
And
didn't
then
know. Right,
right? Like you were called to it and you're like, oh, drawing pictures makes her happy. Let me draw as many pictures as I can.
right,
Like being
right.
of service. Yeah.
To be of service, right? But I didn't realize the price that came with it.
Mm.
There's a I was listening to a motivational speech, and I've watched it several times over and over. And it talks about a guy. The guy was homeless, and he was talking about how he wanted to be a preacher when he was a kid, right? And this guy was good. and he's just
Mm.
out there talking to random people and stuff like that, and he's laying it out. You gotta check it out.
Yeah.
And he goes, I wanted to be a preacher when I was a kid, but I didn't know the price I had to pay. And I say that to say this because as we maneuver through this world, and try to figure out what it is that we're going to do, we forget what we ask. And
Mm.
a lot of times the price that we pay is a little bit more than what we expected, right?
I was just doing a podcast episode earlier today, and it was on the notion that thoughts become things, right? So that sounds a little woo woo, or maybe you think it's like the spirit or whatever manifestation, kind of.
Mhm.
But you can break it down, and like the sandwich that you want also started as a thought, and then
Right,
it, with
right.
action, it becomes a thing. So it's dialing into that mindfulness, and it's another way to say that is careful what you wish for, right?
Ooh,
Wherever
ooh.
your thoughts go, the
Right.
universe is like, okay,
Yeah, because
if
the universe don't understand. The universe knows what you ask. And then
yeah,
it
she knows.
goes, if you want it, you can have it.
Yep.
The crazy part about it is, and this is where it gets a lot of people, right? You can have it if you're willing to work for it. The problem
Yes.
is that people don't realize how much work needs to go into it, or they don't realize the process that you have to go to in order to obtain what you need to, what it is that you're searching for. Because people don't understand that there's going to be people being brought into your life, and they all play a role.
Mm.
People that you love is going to walk away from you. The people that you care about is going to be the ones that are talking bad about you. It's going to be the people that you want to trust that are going to be the ones that stab you in the back and drag you through the mud. The key to it is though, when you're going through this, you have to understand the role that they play in that journey, in your journey,
And
and then
your role,
and your
right?
role
And
that you play in
having
theirs,
that
right?
remarkability of like, oh, you know
Right.
what? I didn't ask this question, and that got me here. And so the
Mhm.
lesson here is that. And so they can move on out of my life now. I've learned the lesson. Because if
Uh-huh.
not, that
There you go.
lesson's gonna keep coming back to find you over and over again
And
until
that
it's
leads
undone.
me to my next question, right? Because I love that you said that. This is a great segue. How was the grieving process, um, enduring the loss of your mom? Because it changes us, right? I mean, but it's a combination of things as well. So, who were you before all of this, and who were you during, and who did you become after? Right? Because grief is a before, during, and after process, and then it's a
Oh,
forever process, right?
100%. And I really felt like that part of my life was like caterpillar, cocoon, butterfly. Like I can look at the dates on the
Mhm.
calendar and like see the measured progress. And I think before, like in my journey with my most recent, grieving my mom and my marriage at the same time,
Mhm.
you know, it unraveled a lot of me, which allowed me to really look at the essence of me because I look a lot like my mom. I talk a lot like her. We have a lot of the same habits. So she's a big part of how I self identified. And so with her absence, there's like, okay, well, who am I without her? Right? Who am I when I'm not her daughter, which was a huge part of how I identified with
Right,
myself.
right,
So with these roles of like wife and daughter gone, it caused some really big inventory checks of, okay, so when I was kind of stripped of those roles, I was able to then say, like, okay, I don't have to carry everything I was with me for the rest of my journey.
right,
From here, I get to take stock, be grateful for everything that's brought me to this moment right here, and build from here. I
yeah,
don't have to carry bags that aren't mine. I don't have to, like, I can process and grieve and let go of, the lessons and experiences that have made me who I am, and I can keep the good. I can kind of review the lessons of, oh, maybe this part isn't so much me anymore, or, just because I used to be a photographer doesn't mean that I have to be a photographer for the rest of my life.
Right.
I can pivot, I can change.
I love that.
And so that allowed me to kind of have the courage to look a little bit further into the future. What would my dream life be? What am I doing? Who am I serving? What am I wearing? What part of the world am I in? And then start kind of reverse engineering that. And that was such an empowering exercise that happened obviously over lots and lots of journaling and long walks in the forest and all of those great self-care pieces.
Yeah.
But just redefining my self-worth and realizing that no one else is in charge of that but me. No one else is going to come and police my dreams or tell me I can or can't do. Everyone else is out there busy doing their own thing.
Right.
So when I discovered what a people pleaser I had been, I had decided to start. I did two things. I promoted myself to being president of doing whatever I want.
I love that. I love that. Yeah.
Which was very liberating as a people pleaser, because then I was responsible as the CEO and president of doing whatever I want. I was responsible for all my choices and my decisions and my schedule and who I spent my time with and who I didn't spend my time with. So it just kind of was this empowerment exercise to continue to get to know myself, continue to trust my gut, own all my failures, and then prove to myself over and over again just how resilient we really are. So it's been a huge transformation. And the biggest grief of my life was the starting point.
I love that. I love that. And which leads me to my next question, because there was a lot of identity change there. There was a lot of figuring out what your next move was, and which direction you wanted to go in. There's the mention of deciding who you're going to give your time to, who not to, right? And so it leads me to this question here. Was there at any point, because, and I say this because I've been there before, and I just want to get your thoughts on it. Was there at any point in your process, in this grieving process, that you were afraid of who you was going to become? Because during that process, there's a choice that is often made to become bitter or to become better. Was at any point did you look at this and go, screw this, screw the world?
Kind of. There was definitely, it kind of rolled through a spectrum. So one of the first things, where I did say screw this, was with time. I totally changed my relationship with time. I took myself off any kind of calendar of, okay, I need to do this by that time. I need to get over this. I'll give myself 2 weeks and then I'll get back to normal. Like, I was just like, nope, this is going to take whatever time it's going to take. And I just have to trust that I'm going to get wherever it is that I'm going in the right time. So that was kind of my one big let go. And then, it went through like, I'm not good enough. And who am I to have big dreams? And who am I? Like, so there was despair there for sure.
Yeah.
And then as I started to project myself into different parts of my future, then imposter syndrome comes to the table and starts to say, like, who do you think you are to be a coach? Who do you think you are to be an entrepreneur? Everybody's going to see right through you, like all of those nasty voices that they're just liars that are trying to keep you safe. They're trying to keep you small so that you don't have to make any big risks, so you don't lose anything, but you don't win anything either. So once I was able to kind of like and be like, no, you're not invited to this party. Get out of here. And
Yeah.
it takes a little bit of fake it till you make it. I hate that saying,
But
but
it's true.
there's some embodying work that's
There,
going to
there,
feel
it's true.
uncomfortable,
Yeah. See, I'm right
but
there with
it's
you. I really hate that word. I really hate that phrase, fake it till you make it. But it's
yeah,
the crazy part about it is, Steph, is that it's a true statement, right?
it
Because
is.
for one, we're manifesting things into the world.
Mhm.
And when you listen to the people who have been doing it a lot longer than us, like your Les Browns, your Jordan Petersons, your E.P. Johnsons, your uh, Eric Thomases, the motivational speakers, or your Tony Robbins in the world, and things like that. They've all started from somewhere. No one gave them anything. Even
Nope.
your Bill Gates, or your Bill Gates, or your Warren Buffetts, and things like that. Most of these people come from a place to where they saw something and they tapped into it and they spoke it as if they already had it. And then this is the part where where I go, yeah, I've done that. Say I was there, because when I first started this work with men and things like that, I remember sitting in the garage with my buddy, and I just told him, I said, dude, this is what I'm going to do. And he looked at me. He was like, how you going to do it, Tony? You homeless? You broke and everything else? I said, I don't know, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And the crazy part about it is, life had a strange way of setting everything up the way that it needed to be set up, right? And it was crazy, because I was like, I don't know. After that, I was like, I don't know what am I doing? I don't know what
But
I'm doing. Yeah,
you're doing, right?
but I
So the
wasn't
path
doing it at the
is
moment, right?
in
I wasn't.
itself.
It took a couple of weeks before it began to come into play. And the
Sure.
crazy part about it, right? Because I'm still like, I don't know how I'm supposed to do it. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, I got to get known. And the best way I know how to get known is that I need to go to some of these events. But I don't really want to go to events because I don't really like people that much. And I'm an introvert. I just want to stay at the house. But I have to do it in order to get where I need to go. And I tell you, at the time I was driving trash truck, and the guy that
Mhm.
I met, one of the guys that I met, he was like, "Hey, right? I heard that you starting this nonprofit." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Man, I want to introduce you to someone." And so he introduced me to this person, and then this person was like, "Have you ever heard of FOTI?" I was like, "No." You need to go ahead and talk to this person. Then next thing you know, I'm sitting on stage talking about mental health and all of these other things, and I'm just like, not quite sure how.
Man,
Right,
yeah,
right. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I don't know how this happened, Steph. I don't, right? And then there was a part of me that I was like, oh, okay, I can't keep doing this. Oh, I can't keep doing this. I'm gonna have to go back into my little cubby hole and be a hermit, right? And then
yeah.
next day, my phone's ringing. Hey, can you come in? Can you come and help us with this? Would you like to be on this? Would you like to come and do this? I was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. And then next thing you know, I get off the phone. I'm like, oh no, what did I just do? But
Well, like we said before, the universe loves action, right? Like
the
you had
universe
that
loves
in
action. Sometimes I think the universe is a bully. Okay, the universe bullied me because I was like, look here, you don't get to tell me what to do, and the universe is like, push.
you. You sure about that?
You sure about that, Tony? I was like, I really wasn't expecting that, but here we are now. And
Yeah.
it was this beautiful thing. And I look at Steph, and I listen to your voice, and you're in Paris right now, which is beautiful. And it shows people out here in the world that no matter where we are in life, where we are in our grieving process, grief can point you down a direction, um, that can give you the life that you so dream about, if you're willing to tap into it, and allow it to guide you, to heal you. Which leads me to my next question. What was you know, let's talk about healing there for a minute, right?
Mm,
And helping people through healing find that mojo, right?
yes.
Yeah, let's tell me a little bit more, but let's talk about that for a little bit. Let's talk about
Let's talk
healing.
about that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the healing component, I really, one of the best decisions I ever made was that commitment to healing that I did when I
Mhm.
went back to Canada. And I just literally put everything else in my life on pause. Um, Now I was a primary caretaker for my dad at the time. We were both trying to navigate life without my mom. But I feel like what may be considered, self-indulgent, just by
Mhm.
virtue of pointing all that time and energy towards myself,
Mhm.
um, I could have spaced that out. I could have done it on my nights and weekends, but I really believe that my return on my investment, because I committed to healing, and to your point earlier of there's no one way to heal, of figuring out what that looked like, because I had no idea. It is it bubble baths? Is it mental health walks? Like what do we do? So that's where I learned the power of getting to know yourself,
Mm.
because there's a million people and you don't have to look very far, and they'll tell you what to do and how to grieve. And maybe that'll work, maybe it won't. But the fun part is figuring it out. The fun part, if you can find a fun part in grieving, is building that relationship with yourself, is trying the bubble bath and being like, you know what, this actually isn't so bad. And I actually do feel a little bit more connected to my body now that I've some lotion and a little bit of self-care,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and maybe it's not for you at all. Maybe your version is baking a cake, whatever it is. Maybe it's meditation, but it's in that dialing into yourself that you've got all the answers. This comes fully equipped with all of the answers from day one.
Mhm.
I firmly believe that. Where I'm at in my life is the unlearning of the things that may have taken me off of my course and disconnected me from who I am at my core, and redeveloping that relationship. And in my healing experience when my mom passed away, I got to heal my inner child. I got to get to know her and let her grieve the loss of her mom. I got to learn that I had a very different childhood than my two brothers, and kind of gain new perspective and insight on the kind of relationship that I had, and what it was and what it wasn't. And that was really healing as well, to be able to do it, to kind of trauma bond with my brothers
Mm.
and hear them process and hear them story tell. We all grew up in the same house, but we had very different experiences. So
Good.
getting a little bit of perspective and having my life kind of mirrored back to me a little bit through the eyes of someone else was also really helpful, because we see life through our own filters and experiences. So to see how someone else sees us and perceives us and
Right.
experiences things can kind of give us another way to look at life, that maybe we don't, maybe our assumptions aren't always correct when we
Mm.
think about how other people are in relation to us, and how we are in relation to other people.
I love that you said that. I really do, because I talk about this often. Perception versus reality, right? Not everything that
Mm,
you perceive is the reality that's going on around you. Sometimes you have to push all of that to the side in order to get through the fog to actually see the realness of the situation or the moments that you're in. And I'd like to break it down into moments, because every moment that you pass through in your day carries either a, a, a lesson to be learned
mhm.
or a lesson to be taught, right?
Mm,
And what I mean by that is that nothing is ever wasted throughout your day. There's no such thing as a bad day. You have challenging moments in your life to either learn or to be a student or to be a teacher. You get to choose every which one you want to be. Because if you're a victim, there's always a lesson to be learned. And why do you perceive yourself to be a victim in this moment? Um, and then in
that's
the next moment, right, and then you're a villain in the next moment, right? So you have to really want to understand in depth, um, the path that you're on, right?
Mhm.
Be willing to let go of an identity that you held on to, but also let go of what you perceive as the reality of how you need to do something,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, and
Um,
I think we often make things out to be harder than they are. So
well,
when you talk about letting go, when you talk about, changing our self-image,
mhm,
what if I told you that you could just change it? And there's no
right,
form you have to fill out, there's no meeting you have to attend, there's no email you need to send anybody, you can just do it. You can just do it. You can
right.
just you can
See,
just let it go.
that sounds easier than what it now. When we talk about this, right? Because you've done the work, it came easy for you, right? Because it's in line to what your gift is. So you know what I'm saying now. And the reason why I said it, because I don't want to, I don't take nothing away from that. I think it's a beautiful thing that you figured it out and you was like, this is what I'm going to do. It's just like when it comes down to grief for me, right? You know what I'm saying? When it comes down to grief and talking about it and being in this space right here, it comes natural for me.
Sure.
This is where we have to look at people and go, um, it's okay for whatever steps that you need to take, right? Now, to us, it may look like that someone is making it more difficult than what it needs to be. I just want to add to that. I'm not going to take away from that because that is true. But there's more.
That's
Let's
not a
let's add.
judgment.
Right, right. And what I mean by that is that maybe sometimes people will just have a different way of learning things,
Sure.
right? You know what I'm saying? That may seem difficult to the person looking, but it makes total sense to this person. It's like a person
Because
learning
that's
math
the
with a
way that
person.
they need to lift to
Right,
get to
right,
where they're going.
right. And
Absolutely.
that's what I mean. It's like sometimes they have to go around and write the equation out and sit there and look at it for an hour or so before it begins to make sense, right? You know what I'm saying? And they
Yeah.
may,
And for that I
they
say
may
take all the time you need.
right, exactly, exactly. And so that's what I mean when it comes down to this thing called life. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Um, we all going to figure it out one way
Mhm.
or another, or it's going to figure us out. But life has a strange way of pushing us into the path that we're supposed to be on. That's why
Yeah.
I always tell people, no matter where you start off at, no matter which path that you think that you're going to take to try to avoid to where you need to get to, you're always going to end up where you need to get to. You just may have to take a roundabout way. Look at our
Yeah.
lives, right? You know what I'm saying? Look at the things that we've had to endure, the people that have come in and out, and look at where we are right now. No one would ever have guessed that. No one would ever have guessed that Stephanie, you know what I'm saying, be in Paris right now, right? You know what I'm saying, out there having a blast out there. No one would ever, imagine, the things that most of these amazing people in the world are doing right now because they remember where they were when they first met them. And so sometimes perception versus reality, the perception of what you see is not always the reality of what's going on. And sometimes you just have to take a step back and be patient, have a little bit of grace, not just for the life, but for yourself in order to develop your character, um, and
Absolutely.
your
Like that you hit the
personality.
nail on those key words when it comes to grief. Like the muscles that I gained in patience,
Hmm.
in grace, in improving my self-talk and how I speak to
Oh,
myself, like
yes, yes, key to key.
totally changed because you have to treat yourself with kid gloves when you're in the heart of grief. You
Mhm.
have to give yourself some slack. The world is already punishing us in a certain axis of our life. We cannot be the one holding the baton. We
Mhm.
have to be
Mhm.
gentle and kind and loving. Get the donut, put on the extra blanket. hit snooze. Like whatever little treat you need to give yourself, feed yourself those harmless treats, with love and kindness, and
Yeah,
make the action towards yourself sweet and soft. When the world is pointy and sharp, we can control that. We can control how we talk to ourselves. We can control how we treat ourselves.
hmm
And that was a huge skill jump, I'd say, that I developed when I was grieving my deepest grief.
right. And that's such a beautiful thing that I love the fact that you said that, right? And I want to add to that a little bit, because then you have people like myself who is a battle dog. There's not too many wars that I won't run to, right? You know what I'm saying? And I told somebody this one time before: if I had to choose between my life and your life, and if it meant giving up my life that you can live, I would, without hesitation, without hesitation, right? But that's just the way that I am. That's the way that I'm built. And when it comes down to a fight, I don't run. I don't have a flight. All I have is a fight. So it doesn't
Okay.
matter if I'm outnumbered. Yeah, I'm not going to run,
No,
right? Because for
that's
one, I have the possibility of at least getting five of you before you get me, right? So but now
that's
if
5 seconds right there.
there's five people right there that but now when we think about the grieving process and things like that. Now, mind you, I did say I was a battle dog, right? Um, it did come with a price, because I wasn't afraid. Because I didn't have no fear of anything in the world. I had just lost everything. That when it came down to it, here's where it gets dangerous. When you find yourself in the middle of nowhere, about ready to blow your brains out, right? And then you look at the world and go, whatever. Who's going to care? Imposter syndrome, right? You know what I'm saying? Imposter syndrome comes in and go, what you doing? What you doing? Yeah, go ahead and do this. You're a piece. You're just a piece of shit, Tony. You're worthless, right? You know what I'm saying? It ain't like anybody's going to miss you, right? You know what I'm saying? You can do this, and it's not like that you have anything going on. You can finish this thing out, right? You can finish the thing strong, and you look at life and go, you know what? You got a really good point there. Maybe
Our
I should.
brain, anything we tell it.
Right. Our brain would believe anything we tell it. But I say that to say this, because these are the multiple faceted areas of grief that one can go down. Right. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, you're a prime example that if you change your mindset, you can go in a different direction, but you're still going to have to go through some things. You mentioned imposter syndrome. You're watching the people that are around you, and somehow you found your mojo. You found your skip, right? You found your skip. You found your double dutch. You know
That's
what I'm
right.
saying? You found your double
90 model walk. That's what I have.
dutch. I love it, but see, and that's why I want people to understand, as they begin to, if not, if they're just in the beginning stages of their grief, in the middle stages of their grief, I want them to understand there is no end to it, right? You know what I'm saying? You will still grieve that individual. As long as you love, you're going to grieve. As long as you
That's
allow people into your life, you're going to grieve. As long as you walk along this earth, unless you figured out a way to get rid of everything, go to the middle of nowhere and just be alone, you're going to grieve. But it's a matter of
I
having.
found that grief really reflects back to us our relationship with attachment, right?
Mm,
What are we attached to? And what part of my value and my self-worth and my identity, how much of that am I attaching to other things?
mm,
How much of my self-image is attached to my job? How much of who I am is what I do, or if I'm not a mother, but a lot of people introduce themselves and the first thing they say is, I am a mother, I'm a dad, you know,
Mhm.
but who are you without those things, right? I was a wife. Now I'm not. Does that mean that I don't exist anymore? No.
Right. We just
So
became a different
we are
version.
more than one thing, but we will always be ourselves.
Right.
So knowing kind of where we attach our identity, grief is saying goodbye to that relationship with our attachment to
Mhm.
that person, that job, that animal, that, whatever it is that we're grieving.
I
Because
love that you
attachment can
said that. I'm gonna elaborate on that for a minute because I felt that one deeply. I felt that one very deep because you know you ask yourself in so many ways, who are you without these things, right? Or but most let's back up a little bit. You ask yourself, who are you with these things? You're a father, you're a brother, you're an uncle, you're a cousin, you're a son, you're a nephew. In your case, you're a daughter, you're a sister, you're a niece, you're auntie. All of these different things, right?
yeah.
And this is our identity because everybody sees us as something different, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The young kid sees us as adults, right? Thinking that we got it all together. We don't.
Yeah.
Really. But we're still just big kids and just bigger bodies. That's all.
That's right.
But then when those things, this is where it gets tricky. When those things are gone and you're no longer a sibling or a daughter or a brother or a father, um, who do you become? Is it
I
already predestined? Is it,
I had my dream job at one point, and I was doing it for a few years, and then from one day to the next, the department was completely eliminated, and it was all I did. All
exactly
I did was get up in the morning and go to work, and I loved it. So I thought, like, how bad could that be? And it paid me, and I could pay my bills, and isn't that great? But I had no hobbies. I had no friends. I was living away from my family, so I couldn't really, fill my cup that way. So you took that part away from me, and
Mhm.
I had a full-blown identity crisis. I had to go back to square one and be like, okay, who am I? What do I like to do? Like, if I'm not at work, what would I be doing? Like, I didn't have a record collection, nothing. Like, I didn't have anything else going on.
That's
So
true.
gotta rebuild, gotta figure out what do I like. And so you kind of take a cue from what other
Mhm.
people are doing. And then you're like, oh, I don't like those people very much. Maybe that's not my thing. And then you go try something else and you're like, oh, maybe I do like knitting or whatever. But it was the attachment that I had where I was just like, here, have all of my best stuff. And what was in it for me? Like, I
Right,
got a paycheck and a pretty good day to day, but it wasn't well rounded. There was nothing wrong with the job, but my
right.
relationship to it, that's what needed a little bit of tweaking.
Well,
So what
I
did the
got a question for the audience.
universe
Yeah,
do?
I got a question for the audience. Those who have been following us since we started the conversation. And my question would be, who were you before and what gave you your mojo to be who you are now? Right. So, you know what I'm saying? Most people that tune in, they have watched the show. They actually, some of them have actually been on the show before. So we all know. And by the way, I introduced Steph. She's the Mojo Maven around here. So she figured out through her grief journey how to find her double dutch and her skip in life. And now she's traveling the world. And she is coming to us from Paris. So that's an amazing thing right there. So that's inspiration for you guys out there. Dreaming big. Keep dreaming big. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
life can
Absolutely.
take
Because
you
this is
places.
where I'm actually back in the same place where I was when my whole world fell apart. My mom died. My marriage was over. And the people here, the reason that I'm back here today is because the people here, they walked in when everybody else was walking out. They
Hmm.
saw me at my worst and they loved me anyway. They had my back. I felt like I had this army of support and love, and they loved me no matter what. They loved me even if I was, standing there with a 1,000-yard stare of grief and just like not recognizing my own self and walking around like I was a zombie. They had my back. They took, intentional loving steps to help me feel whole again, and they supported me the whole time I was away. So now I get to come back, show them the glow up, tell them how much I appreciate and love, and
Yeah.
how much that support meant, and really say thank you for showing up at a really important time. So it's a really amazing full circle time to be here.
See, I love that. I love that as well, which leads me to my next question. Um, when was your aha moment when you found, um, when you realized that everything that you had been working for had come true? What was
Mm,
that moment through your healing process to where, because this doesn't happen overnight, right? You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of work that, and talking with you, it's just like, wow, if only you knew the work that you had to put in. But what was that aha moment that you got to, maybe like for me it was that phone call.
yeah.
It was that phone call, right? You know what I'm saying? Hey, Tom, I'm doing a movie, man. Would you like to come out here? I want to introduce you to some people. Because I used to always tell people, look, man, I'm a nobody. I'm just a nobody trying to do something good in the world. That's it. I'm okay with staying in the shadows. I'm okay with building things and bringing in somebody and mentor them and let them do it. You know what I'm saying? And going back into the shadows. I was okay with that. But it was that call where my childhood's hero called me after I had him on a podcast. He goes, "Hey man, there's a character that we have that would be awesome for you. Have you know what I'm saying? Come on out here and let me show you how to do some voiceover work, even though, you know what I'm saying, that you may not need much." But that was my aha moment right there. That was that moment where I realized that things had really changed for me,
Yeah.
right?
And really come into alignment, and the world was starting to meet you, started seeing yourself differently, and the world came to meet you where you were at, and gift you with these opportunities, because that's where your action and intention was going. And that's
Well, I never
amazing.
knew. Well, okay, so I never knew that this is what I was going to do. I
Mm.
fought it. I really did, right? And for some odd reason, it kept bringing me back because no one gets up and says, I'm going to do grief." No one does that. You have to go through some things, and I was like, no, this is weird. This is weird. Like, I'm not doing grief. No, you don't understand. I'm going to do this over here, and I'm going to bring in somebody else to do the grief, and you know what I'm saying, and bring in other people to do this stuff over here. But I have no problems with writing programs. I
Yeah.
have no problems
Yeah.
with doing that. I have no problems with marketing and advertising to get it where it needs to be. I have no problems with it. I will put feet on the pavement and go out there and beat it up. Okay, you know what I'm saying. So I had no
Yeah.
problems with doing that until I realized what it was doing. Everybody had bought in. Life said, nope. And I was like, hey, whoa, where you going? Oh, I'm sorry, Tony. I was like, whoa, okay. And then I bring in the next person, the life went, yeah, nope. I was like, whoa, what's going on? And then it was like, you know what? I'm gonna cut it off real quick. I'm gonna just let life move to the next person, right? So as soon as like that, I said, hey, whoa. I was like a linebacker, Steph. I was blocking them. I was like, hey, you can't go nowhere. And then these people started picking fights with me. I was like, hold on. Do you need, because we can kung fu fight around here. We can. I don't mind that. Okay, we can kung fu fight. And then I realized, and that was that moment where I realized that I had been chosen to do what I do, right? Because after that I got tired and I was just like, I just put my head down. And grief came in and go, no, pick your head up, young man.
Yeah.
Pick your head up and
Yeah.
come sit with me for a minute. So I love the fact that you mentioned that earlier. I sat with it and it
Yeah.
began
And there's
to,
there's an element element of surrender.
Right. I
And I
surrender to it.
and there's a real it sounds counterintuitive, but surrender is actually really empowering
Right.
to
Right.
let go of that control and realize how much power and space and safety you really have, I think
Right.
is a really brave thing to do, which means it's going to feel scary. So if it feels scary, you're doing it right. And then that's where trust is built, right? You're building that trust with yourself because you don't build trust when things are easy. You build trust when things are hard. So when you surrender to the grief, you say, okay, let me learn what I'm here to learn. Let me feel what I'm feeling inclined to feel. No
Uh-huh.
judgment, no shame, no good, no bad. Just let it happen. And you're really surrendering. It's that letting go that actually makes space for all the good stuff to come find you. And that's what it sounds like it happened to you too, where you're just like, I'm just going to surrender to the winds that keep finding me and keep tapping me on the shoulder and saying, maybe go down this way, maybe pick up that phone call, maybe don't let it go to machine, maybe see
Well,
what
I
you're
had to
made of.
stop being stubborn. I had to stop being stubborn because you got to remember when you're used and this goes for a lot of people out there as well. When you're so used to fighting, it's kind of hard to follow someone else's lead,
Oh
right? And
yeah.
when you're so used to being out here in the world with nothing, it's really hard to accept when something does come along,
Yeah.
right? Something good, something, um,
Instinct is like resistance and
right.
like
It's
not
instinctively, right? Like, do I trust this?
yeah.
Because life has never given most people in this world, through our traumas, through our grief, through our addictions, life has never given us a reason to trust
Sure.
people, places, or things because of the simple fact of,
That's the wiring. That's all
right,
that your dad has
it's
proven
those
to you.
rights and those lefts. It's those rights and those left. And you said something, uh, um, and I'm going to elaborate on it, right? Because this is the phrase. I think we talked about this when we first met. Trust is earned, right? You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? It's like in anything that you do, in a path that you walk on, trust is always earned. And especially in the cases of not understanding the path that you're on, trust is earned not only with the environment that you're in, the people that you encounter, but trust is earned most importantly with yourself, right? Do you
Mhm.
trust yourself to do the things that you need to do on a day to day basis in order to get to where you need to get to? Do you trust yourself to surrender wholeheartedly the safety nets that you have developed in order to see what's on the other side? Do you trust yourself to get up when you've been knocked down? Do you trust yourself to go out and allow yourself to surrender to the process? Do you trust yourself to give up what you need to give up in order to become the person that you're supposed to be, to fit in the world the way that you're supposed to fit in authentically?
And when you do take that leap, and when you do surrender, there's a really quick win that happens. You
Right,
immediately
right,
get proven how strong you are and how resilient you are and how
mm,
and you're just like, "Oh, oh,
right,
oh, okay,
right.
this
Yeah, yeah.
got strong. Oh, okay, okay." And then all of a sudden, like, the shoulders go back a little bit, and you start taking
Mhm.
up a little bit more space, and you start wanting a little bit more for yourself and treating yourself a little nicer and aiming a little higher. And it's these little micro decisions that you make that all kind of start to snowball a little bit.
Yes,
But
yes.
the hardest part is the surrender, the scariest part. But
Yeah,
everything on the other side of that is fruit. Like, it's gifts, and they come
it really
quickly.
is. It really honestly is. And and with a bit, because I know it's getting late over there. We're gonna have to definitely do this again, and
Sure.
everything. And for everyone, so as we begin to wrap this up, I just want to say for everyone out there who's been tuning in, if you have not already and you enjoy these conversations, please do me a favor, head over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. Reason being, we're going to be switching platforms. And so if you still want to stay on track of everything and all the episodes and be a part of them, be able to interact with us, you might want to go to the YouTube channel for me, right? But most important, share it with people out there that could benefit from. We're trying to get those subscribers up there. We're trying to reach a lot more people. This is our way of saying, help us in normalizing the conversations through these stories around death, dying, and grief. These people are amazing, and they're out here doing amazing things. So, and now with that being said, Stephanie, what's next for you? What you got going? What you got coming up?
Oh, I'm just getting started, my friend. I'm just getting warmed up. I've got podcasts that come out every Thursday. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find Pocketful of Mojo.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I have about a 25 to 30-minute episode that is, there's a mantra of the week, and then there's a topic focus where we go deep, we get practical. And it's the podcast where you always feel better at the end of listening to it. So it's worth checking out. And I've got the Mojo method that is in the oven being developed as we speak. So before the end of this year, you will be able to find the Mojo method and go through the 8-week program with yours truly, where we hold hands and we dig in and we find our mojo together.
I love that. I love that. Now, if you could leave the audience with something, what would you leave them with?
The most important relationship you'll ever have is the one that you have with yourself. Act accordingly.
I love that. I love that. And I'm going to give everybody a brief update before we jump off of here, so everybody knows that we're working on our second volume of the magazine, the Grief Talk magazine, the first magazine ever dedicated to grief, trauma, and mental health. We have some amazing articles coming out there. Some people who tuning in right now. Hey, if you haven't already, shoot your articles over there. We're going to be putting them in this magazine right here. We did add in some more segments. We got the letters to your loved ones that we're going to be doing from here on out. We have the events section. So whatever you got going on out in the world and you want people to know, send them over there to me. We'll put them up there. That way people can be informed. They can find you. But most importantly, another thing, we have the podcast section coming on. So if you have a podcast out there and it's surrounded by helping individuals move through grief, trauma, mental health, and all those different things, send them over there to me, because we would love to showcase them in the magazine so people know where to find you. They know where to tune in at, right? But most importantly, they know who you are. Send them on over there to me, but get them to me before the 15th. Because we're going to be doing that, and then every month we're just going to be keep adding people in. And do not worry, we're not taking anybody off the list. Okay, we've grown the list. This is the magazine to be able to do that with, and it's growing at a rapid pace. So as we put it out there, you guys. This is Tony Lynch. This is going to conclude this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. Give my guest a big round of applause. Thank her for coming on and sharing her story and about the work that you do. Please go and check her out. Her information will be. Here's another thing. Her information is going to be in the magazine as well. Okay, so you guys go. Don't forget to look out for the landing page. We're going to be putting that up there. Go check it out. Get your copy. And we're gonna make it really good for you guys moving forward. Tell us what you like, and we're gonna make it happen. And so with that being said, you guys, thank you guys for tuning in for this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys already know we'll be back tomorrow with some more amazing guests, more people doing amazing things in the world. And if you would like to come on and be a guest, even if you have been a guest before and would like to come back on here and talk more about what you do, please reach out to me. You guys already know. Here's my email. TOLynch46@gmail.com. Whatever you have, if you want to do it, reach out to me. I would love to link up with you and show you the support that you guys show me. So with that being said, Steph, again, thank you for coming on and being a part of this. Thank you for the beautiful conversation. I can't wait to tell you. When you get back, we're definitely going to have to talk again, because I'm living vicariously through you, going out there to Paris and carrying on and things like that. So we got to share your experience and everything. Guys, enjoy the rest of your day. Make sure that you let those that you know that you love them, because tomorrow's not promised with us, nor is the next moment. Okay. I am Tony Lynch. This is going to conclude this one. We love you. You guys have a great and peaceful day. See you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.
Ooh.